This is Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba, unlocking essential advice, opinions, and key issues that affect South Africa's small business community.
Welcome to yet another episode of Small Business Conversations. Today, I am really excited because I'll be speaking to someone who I have been following on social media for a few years now, and that is Inga Gubeka, the founder and creative director of luxury bag company Inga Atelier. Inga, thank you for joining us on the Small Business Conversations podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be on your show.
So let's just dive right into it. Describe to us the Inga Atelier brand. I mean, just saying the name for me was such a fun exercise. I was Googling and trying to get the pronunciations. But for someone who's not familiar with it, what do you do and why do you do it?
So Inga Atelier, let's start with the name. Inga Atelier is derived from my name, Inga. Mm-hmm. And Atelier is a workshop or studio in French, basically. So it's Inga's studio, if you may call it, or Inga's atelier, like, a workshop.
Yeah.
The reason why I went into the space of luxury is because I saw a gap in the market. As Africans, we are amongst the biggest consumers of luxury, yet we don't produce much of luxury. That's what inspired it. But again, luxury comes at, good quality, excellent workmanship. Those are some of the things that define luxury. So I wanted to have a brand that is proudly African and made in Africa by Africans that can compete with other big luxury brands on a global scale. That's why I initially founded the business.
I wanted to get just briefly into the story of young Inga and your journey growing up in the Eastern Cape. Did you always want to be a designer? Was that always a vision for you to be a designer or to work in the fashion industry? And if you weren't a designer, what were you going to be?
Quite frankly, I've always been a designer. It's just that I didn't know it at the time. For instance, I used to make wire cars. I used to make a laptop using cardboard, sellotape, and write on them the alphabets and the key buttons and all of that. So if you look at it, that is design, that is art. I used to make cows using clay and bowls using clay growing up. Only much later in life I realized actually what I was doing is design. So to answer your question, I've always been a designer, but I was just not exposed to design in the terminology of design because of my background,
So your childhood wasn't boring. From everything that you're telling me, you had the best childhood.
Yeah, I was never home. It's either I was at the river, I'm swimming there with other boys and I'm building the cow things. If I'm not there, there's a season of cars, where we build wire cars, I was always busy with something, I was just never at home. I was busy with other activities and all of that. I'd leave in the morning and come back maybe around about 4 and I'll get scolded for that.
So that journey has brought you to this point where you've built a distinctive luxury bag brand. How would you define the typical Inga Atelier customer?
So my customer is someone who works hard, someone who's, who dares to be different, someone who likes quality and attention to detail and excellent workmanship. That is my customer. Because if you look at our bags, the style, it's not overly branded, but we focus on the aesthetics and the quality aspects of things. My customer is someone who's very subtle, who understands quality, understands excellent workmanship, who understands the material used onto our items. So that is our clientele, basically.
And operating in South Africa, how has that experience been? Do you believe the environment is conducive for young entrepreneurs with everything that you've gone through so far?
So quite frankly, we did so well up until the COVID, which was in 2020, right? And we saw a drop in sales, in South Africa going into 2021. And we were okay, I think it's time for us to look at other markets because people, we're not trying to spend so much, on items they don't need, Yeah, so we looked into the US. We did some testings there, with our online store. We did some testings with some retail there. And it actually worked. And we decided to exit South African market. So we're not in the South African market at all at the moment. We're just focusing on the US market. We're focusing on the stores there. We're focusing on our online store there. And that's what we're doing.
What do you mean when you say you focusing on the US market? Does that mean if I were to try and look for an Inga Atelier store in South Africa, I will not find one?
No, you won't. You won't even be able to buy an Inga Atelier bag in South Africa at this point.
Even online?
Even online.
And what informed the decision to move from the South African market and focus on the international customer?
First of all, like I said, the sales dropped drastically. And also the spending power, it also dropped in the country in the last couple of years, So focusing on the South African market was no longer sustainable for us because we wanted to go big. And we figured that the best way possible to go big is the US because of the influence they have throughout the world. So that's what informed us to move towards the US market, basically, because the spending power there is still pretty much very good. It works for us, especially with our price points, I mean, like on an average, if a client is in the US, they're spending like what, $600 on a bag. That's nothing to them on an average. So yeah, so it works perfectly well for us.
In terms of operations then, yes, you're selling to the US market and you've exited SA, but are some operations at least based in South Africa?
So the Inga operations run very simply. Manufacturing design takes place in South Africa, right? And the marketing, the whole US operation takes place in Dubai. So my two partners sit in Dubai. They are in charge of all the logistics and everything around the business, that we are operating in the US. So down here in South Africa, it's only myself and a few admin people, about 2 admin people, and the rest is like the factory people. And we ship everything to the US. So that's how the team is structured.
Mm-mm. And what would convince you then to move back into the SA market? What would need to happen for you to say, okay, we are going to transition back and try to settle down here at home?
Quite frankly, I'm not even thinking about that at the moment. It's not even like,
wow.
It's not even on the table. Look, to be honest, I'm enjoying the success, like that's happening in the US at the moment. You know what I mean? We're now trying to take the PR angle. We work with Tusom Bedu, like she rocks our stuff and all of that. So when I get like more of those people, maybe get Charlize Theron, maybe get Trevor Noah. So those are the things that we're trying to get into right now, as opposed to like just selling a good product, So we want to build like a reputable brand in the US, That's what we're busy trying to build at the moment. So our plans don't include South Africa at all at this current moment. So it's not going to happen anytime soon.
And I really just want to spend a little bit more time on this because I find it quite interesting. When you say that to people and you're like, I am in the US market, I'm out of SA, do you face any backlash and any judgment at all about your decision and the direction that your company has taken?
Yeah, some people ask, like, why did you leave South African market? Then I ask one question, have you ever bought my bag? No. Then I'll be like, then you can't judge me as to where I should trade, where I should not trade. I'm patriotic, yes, but I mean, like, I still need to make a living. And secondly, I've got my own vision about my brand and the direction it should take, And I bring value to the country, you know what I mean? Like, I hire employees, I pay the taxman in foreign currency, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it works. I wouldn't expect someone to give me a backlash. They have no ground to stand on.
No, I hear you and you make very valid points. I think there's a bravery that comes with shooting so far out of your comfort zone, and I applaud that. Just moving on to lessons that you may have learned or your achievements. I've seen you were recognized in the Mail and Guardian 200 most influential young South Africans in 2020, I believe. You were also recognized in the Forbes 30 under 30 list. You're a brand ambassador of Brand SA, speaking to your patriotic role that you mentioned earlier. What for you has been your biggest achievement in your career so far?
I think my biggest achievement in my career so far is actually being able to operate in the US market and receive so much love and support from the US. I don't take that lightly. I mean, the Americans really, really love my product. They went as far as following me personally, asking me like if I'm going to be doing an exhibition in America or a trade show, or am I going to be showcasing at New York Fashion Week? That's just, the love has just been so amazing. that I've been getting from the Americans. So I think that's quite an achievement. I don't take that lightly.
No, definitely. And the not so probably nice part for you to speak about, but I think it's going to be valuable. Your biggest mistake that you've made as an entrepreneur and what you've learned from it.
My biggest mistake I've learned as an entrepreneur is to go in business with a girlfriend and not a wife,
Please tell us more.
I went into business with this girl, and we broke up, and now that was a business, what do you do with the business, Now I don't want to see her, but we need to see each other because we're in business. It was just all a mess. It's just a mess. So yeah, that's one of my biggest lessons. But the most important lesson is, I think that when choosing business partners, it's very important because you are more like married to them and you've got this child called a business. So you need to vet your partners properly before you embark onto a business venture together. It's very, very important. And also like someone you can trust, because you can get a business partner, and you're all working nicely. The minute money starts flocking in, then they sing a different tune altogether. They change, they become something else. So it's very important that you vet the people you go into business with, brother.
And just to end off, you mentioned Fashion Week and future plans. Can you just give us a sneak peek into what the future looks like for Inga Atelier moving forward? Are you looking at other markets that you're trying to infiltrate? And what are those markets?
Well, they are supported by the South African government, which I really think they are doing a fairly good job, in my opinion, in some areas of supporting entrepreneurs. For instance, they're taking us to Project Magic in Vegas for a trade show. We are going to Sydney as well for another trade show, like it's bags and shoes. We are doing New York is now, also like supported by the South African government. And then South Korea, also like a trade show. So those are like 5 trade shows that we are doing this year. So expanding into other markets, we're trying to focus on the US right now, but we are still testing other markets. We would love to get into the Asian market, which is very good because they are the biggest consumers of luxury, but one step at a time. With the American influence, that's going to get us there nicely, and smoothly into the Asian market, because the Asians, they support whatever that comes from the West, Yeah, so that's where we are.
Inga, thank you once again for joining us. That is Inga Gubeka, the founder and creative director of luxury bag company Inga Atelier. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and follow Small Business Conversations, and don't forget to share our episodes. If you want to contribute to the conversation, you can tweet me at machoba_a, or you can send us an email to smepodcast@moneyweb.co.za to share your thoughts and suggestions for future conversations.
You've been listening to Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba. To listen to more Moneyweb podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za, the Moneyweb app, or your favorite podcast platforms. Moneyweb, your trusted source for business and investment insights.